Mark, good morning. Here we are at Playford Road, and today we're going to talk about the developments here. A significant project ongoing, work is well underway. How is progress?
There's lots of it. It's extremely busy, and I think it'd be a good opportunity today to show you around and let supporters see what we've been doing, because as we've said, there's a hell of a lot of work going on here.
All of it ongoing though, it must be emphasised, while the first team is still here, while the women's team is still here, while the academy is still here.
No, exactly. Look, we have to operate fully. We've got the provisional Cat 1 licence for the academy. First team have got games to win, women have got games to win, so our programme continues. So the challenge is to make sure that we operate normally whilst we're building a substantial facility here at Playford Road.
Talking about a substantial facility, to remind the supporters basically of the project as a whole, what is it?
When we first came to the football club, we've talked about this time and time again, there were so many areas of the football club that simply weren't fit for purpose. And the training ground was probably one of the main areas of concern. And over the last 3 or 4 years, we've upgraded a number of the facilities here at the training ground, but we've just now outgrown them. The building that the first team, women's and academy are currently situated in simply isn't fit for purpose. It's not elite, and it's not going to be able to help us deliver sustainable success in either attracting players to the club, the development of players, the physical development of players. We need world-class and elite facilities. So, new pitches. We'll be one of the very few clubs in the country who has all of his pitches stitched. So it's a very similar pitch then to Portman Road. When we actually, funny enough, when we arrived at the football club, you look at one of the areas adjacent to us here, which is the new goalkeeping area. I remember there was a huge set of trees at the far end of this, and probably the second or third day we were here, we walked the site, we walked beyond the trees, and we found 3 tennis courts. 3 old, dilapidated tennis courts with floodlights in a real mess. So again, we've taken them up, we've cleared the land, and we've integrated that in part of the site. But first team, women's, academy, and some foundation use as well, it's important that this site is really fit for purpose and elite.
Let's go for a walk round, and as you say, we've got this new goalkeeper area on the right. You'd have enjoyed this area, wouldn't you?
It's unbelievable. I mean, again, stitched, fully stitched. You know, this is Rennie Gill-Martin's area. Young goalkeepers, academy goalkeepers, women's goalkeepers, first team goalkeepers. Again, really fit for purpose, first class facilities, first class grass, and that'll be supported by the new building, the multi-million-pound building we're gonna see shortly.
Overall, are you happy with where we're at, the time frame?
Yeah, I think. Look, again, when we came to the club, we spent a lot of time with Kieran, with the staff, with other football clubs, looking at best practice and looking at what we needed to design to make sure we were ready to jump to Cat 1 status. And if you remember, I think it was my first fans forum being asked, when are we going to move to Cat 1? And I said, when we're ready, because there was no point moving to Cat 1 status for the academy without the staffing being right, without the facilities being right, or a plan to take us forward. Now we have the plan, we have the licence in place, and I think we're about 6 months ahead of that being converted to a permanent licence. So we're in a good place. But these facilities, I believe, as you see when we step around the site today, will have a generational impact on our football club. They're that important to us.
Yeah, and talking about being ready for the Category 1, you mentioned the kind of criteria there. Why were we ready just recently?
I think you have to start with people. You know, we've talked before about the lack of investment in the football club for many, many years, and our people were one of the areas. Doesn't mean our people weren't good people, but we needed to have people who understood what elite really looked like, what top level player development looked like. You know, I want to challenge our academy because I want us to see a production line where when we need to recruit players into the first team, we don't simply look at buying and recruiting players in. The first place we should be looking is in-house. And I think, look, we want to get players through. It's important that Kieran understands that. Kieran's, if you like, academy background and coaching background is instrumental. And when a player goes up from the 23s or the 18s to train with Kieran, I want them to give Kieran a problem because I don't want him to come back. And I think in Ben Chenery now, in Dimitri and the team that we've got leading the academy, we have a group who have a different focus. are recruiting new people in to fill new roles, and whether it's in recruitment, coaching, analysis, performance within the academy, I think we'll be in a really good state come the summer.
The standard, you've said, has to be more than being a good footballer. You want winning footballers, don't you?
Yeah, you make a very good point. I'm not here just to develop players. We're not here to facilitate fixtures. We're not here just to have everything looking pretty and nice. We're here to create football players that know how to win games of football, and that's a fundamental difference. I think at times, almost as a nation, we develop technically and tactically really good players, but we can remember how to win. And we are here to win games of football, and when players go up to Kieran, they've got to know how to win. So again, whether it's from 9 years of age, through all the academy age groups, the 18 to 23s, I'm not looking for coaches and staff that just facilitate fixtures. We're looking to win right the way through. That puts a winning culture in the football club. So again, when they go up to Kieran, the first team manager, they are ready. And both players and parents have got to accept that that's going to be tough. We'll spend all this money on these wonderful facilities, but again, it's not just for aesthetics. This is a place of work. And when the players and the staff come to work from an academy perspective, the players and the parents have got to understand this is going to be tough, but we're getting those young players ready for first team football.
And how key is that last point, that it's all connected, isn't it? If you're going to develop that culture and that winning mentality, elite facilities are going to help you do that.
Look, for sure. I think Andy Rolls, the performance team, Kieran, all of the coaching staff, the women's coaching staff, the academy staff have done an incredible job in, again, I repeat, facilities that are simply not fit for purpose. I come to the training ground, I don't have a desk. And I can't have a desk because I'm going to take up someone's space. The space is that tight. We've put temporary buildings on the site at quite a large cost over the last 4 years to see us on the way through, but we're beyond that now. Temporary buildings need to go, permanent buildings need to be in place, and we need to have, again, really elite world-class facilities. And as I look over my shoulder, I can see the workmen going on, and we're talking tens and tens and tens of millions of pounds being invested into this facility, probably for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Probably the most money that's been spent was the dome, which would have been £1 million or so 20 years ago. This is a game changer for us.
Why did you spot it straight away? Because it's been in the agenda, and it's been in the plan ever since Game Changer arrived. What is it, 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think these things take time. At my previous club, the last project, literally as I walked out the door, we were just completing the training ground development there. That was a 5-year cradle to grave project. And these things take time because you've got to go through the design process, the planning process, the procurement process, and then you've got to deliver the project whilst, as you said, you're operating the facility in full. So it just takes time. It's something we've been on since day one. We've looked at a number of designs, we looked at temporary buildings, we looked at modular buildings, but we felt, as with everything with this ownership group, if we're going to do it right.
How challenging has it been to do it while still operating?
Thus far, it's been fairly smooth because I think, we have Dean Sharp here who runs the operational side at the training ground, extremely experienced, runs a very tight ship. Again, him and Andy Rolls have planned this through meticulously. So certain areas of the training ground have been locked off at certain times. Building has to stop when Kieran's right on the next pitch to that building. So a lot of planning, a lot of process, but I think as ever the team's been really good, and this far we're on time, and I like to say we're on budget.
Something you always emphasise is that the most important thing at a football club, in your opinion, is the people. These facilities, yes, they have a knock-on effect for the first team, the academy, the women, everyone at the training ground, but they're better facilities for the staff, and they will enjoy their jobs more working at a place like this.
Yeah, I think, look, on any journey when you're trying to build sustainable success, not just people, but the right people are your biggest asset. Not all the people make the journey with you, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means sometimes what's got you here isn't going to get you there, and you need to do things differently. You need different skill sets, and sometimes you need different mindsets. So we've invested heavily in the people, and we'll continue to do that. Again, whether that's analysis, medical, recruitment, coaching, leadership within the academy, there'll be more investment into that. But what you need, it's the same when we brought Kieran into the first team. I felt when we appointed Kieran, I've said this before, I needed a step change, and I needed someone who really understood what elite looked like. When we were in League One, we made a fundamental decision to appoint Premier League staff, Premier League processes in place that we ultimately believe would carry us all the way through. And I think we saw that happen. The academy has to be the same now. We have to have people who really understand what elite looks like, understand what real hard work, dedication and focus looks like. And I think if we do that, and we do that in the right way, it'll be a production line that brings homegrown talent into our first team.
Mark, behind us now, we've got the new ground staff facilities, and at this angle we can't really see because they're working behind there, but that's a significant area around there, isn't it?
It's incredible. The new grounds maintenance facility is probably bigger than the whole original training ground in its entirety. Again, this was always going to be the first part move of the site, because where the new building is, the location is where the old maintenance building sat. This in itself is a multi-million-pound facility for all the equipment, the maintenance staff, everything that comes along with maintaining, numerous top-level pitches. This will be the first piece that will be completed, and I think by December, January, the maintenance team will be in here and operational. But again, it's important because this was the first move of the jigsaw, so to speak, that allowed us to then build and move on with everything else.
Mark, we've been discussing a few areas of the football club, of course, and those at the training ground. Being the first team, the women in the academy. Let's start with the women, because their temporary site was just where we started this interview, basically. Their short-term goal is obvious. It's to stay in WSL2.
Yep.
But how much bigger is the project there?
Look, I think it's like the whole project with the football club. Everything we do is judged around winning, and ultimately we could get judged 2 or 3 times in a 10-day period. But the whole project is much bigger than that. This is about building sustainable success. And again, I don't want to keep going back, but you've got to remember where you came from to understand where you are and where you're going to. And when we joined the football club, the women's team, for example, they had no specific equipment, they had no desk, they had no space. They were just simply fitting in and around the men's team and when and where they could. Now they have their own offices. They're going to have better and more permanent offices when we move into the new building, because the old building will be renovated, and along with the academy, they will have their own permanent space. So again, their women's team is a key part of the football club. They did extremely well last year. We increased the budget, we increased the finances to get them into WSL2, and they're finding it a challenge at the moment. But we'll keep working at it. We know what we've got to do, and they will keep fighting. We will keep fighting to the end to try and stay in the division. But again, it's a big gap, it's a big jump. But again, this is just the end of the beginning. There are multiple stages to go through with the development of our women's team, and they're a key element of our football club.
You also are passionate about the fact that you want, yes, a young boy might see Leif Davis or Wes Burns or Christian Walton, but you want a young girl to see Sophie Peskett, Natasha Thomas, Maria Boswell, don't you?
I think that's really important. If you look at the men's and the women's games independently, a young boy of 7, 8, 9 has a clear pathway through the academy process, through to being a professional footballer and following his idols. I think it's less so in the women's game. And as a football club, I think we need to take, matters into our own control almost. And whether that's through our foundation, whether that's our women's team, whether that's a combination of both, I want to ensure that we've got a very similar girls' pathway for the young girls who come through at 7, 8 and 9. And again, they want to be the next Natasha Thomas, Sophie Prescott. They've got a clear pathway through. And I think that's one of the next projects that we'll be looking at.
And talking about sustainable success as well, in what ways is it difficult in the women's game?
Listen, finances are a challenge. Let's be really clear, compared to the men's game, there is no broadcast deal, there is no transfer market. It's anywhere near the level in the men's game. So financially, you have to keep putting money into the women's game to support it. Ultimately, the broadcast deal, the commercial deals, the player trading does financially support the men's game, albeit most clubs still run at a loss in the men's game. So I think, look, we've just got to look after ourselves. We've got to create our own model, and our own model will be a balance between players that we recruit in, but players, again, that we develop from a homegrown perspective. And I think that's going to be really, really key.
Yeah. Let's look at the area behind you as well. We'll pan the camera around in a minute, because this is this is the main show pitch. And you spoke before actually about parents coming and supporters. I mean, this is going to be brilliant for them to come and watch young players.
Yeah, it's up and operational now. Brand new pitch, again, fully stitched. One of the 10 pitches that we now have on site. Floodlit, full size. I think it's more or less to the millimetre, the same size as Portman Road. Kieran will do his match prep on here on a Friday, but also our 18s will play on here. Our women's team will train on here. And again, it's an area that's been designed so we can bring families and supporters in to watch some of the games. This just didn't exist before. And hence why we wanted to do this today, because when you work at the club, you can see this on a daily basis. The training ground's obviously locked off. It's a place of work, it's private. And I wanted the supporters and the stakeholders to have an opportunity to see what we're doing behind the scenes, because this is fundamentally very, very different things that have been put into our football club that never have existed ever before here. And again, it's huge investment. You're talking multi-millions of pounds for each pitch.
How important is that? Because I actually think sometimes working in football, you can take it for granted if you're based at a training ground or a stadium, but it's got the potential, and now we're going to see that with the training ground, for it to be an incredible place to work and visit if you are a supporter or a player.
Listen, ultimately, we go back to winning. We have to create a no excuse culture. And if the pitches aren't good enough, the facilities aren't good enough, then ultimately people have excuses. If my job is to provide the right staff, the right facilities, the right infrastructure, and give them the energy, positivity and plan to move forward so that we can be the best we can be. And I think, look, this club has gone on an incredible journey in the last 3 or 4 years, but we have so much to do. By June next year, the training ground will be complete. I'm sure we're going to have a walk over to Bent Lane shortly and look at the 4 or 5 pitches that have now gone onto there and have all been fully stitched for the Academy Cat 1 status. There's only one way this football club's going. The one thing I can't buy is time, and we need to build infrastructure. Ideally, all of this would have been built and completed prior to us getting into the Premier League.
Yeah.
That would have given us a far better chance to stay in the Premier League. We had, bar none, worst training facilities in the Premier League. And I'd say, bar only a few, did we have the worst training facilities in the Championship. So Kieran, Andy Rolls, Matt Allen, the team, they've done an incredible job. And I will repeat that with the facilities we've got. But now, after the planning we've put in, the finance we've put in, come June next year, they are going to have elite facilities.
Yeah, let's look at the academy. They are here every day.
Yep.
Basically, this is their base. What had to change from before?
I think mindset. Again, it's no criticism of any individual. I think historically when clubs cut finances, academies are always one of the first to be cut. It's an easy place to cut. It's a soft place to cut. But actually what you are doing is you are weakening your future. I am a product of an academy. Very long time ago, before you say it. But you came through with a set of values. You were taught how to do your jobs. You were taught, how to behave. You were taught the values, and you were taught technically and tactically. And I think here, we've breathed fresh life into our foundation. We've done the same with the first team. We've done the same with the women. And another big part of our jigsaw was always the academy. But there were so many pieces we had to get right before we just jumped to that. And I think we've got those pieces in a good place now. I think we've got people in the right roles from a leadership perspective who want to take it forward. I wouldn't say in an old-fashioned way, but they aren't afraid to have a little bit of old school in there.
Yeah.
And I go back to, again, I repeat myself, we're not just going to develop very nice technically and tactically gifted players. We've got to develop players who understand how and what you need to do to win games of football. And I'll repeat again, we are not here just to facilitate fixtures, whether that's the first team, whether that's the women, whether that's the 23s, or whether that's the under-9s. There's got to be a winning mentality right through our football club.
Does that link into recruitment as well? Because you spoke about recruitment and bringing the best players in, and everyone loves the idea that you're just born in an Ipswich kit, but you might sign a talented 14-year-old or 15-year-old.
No, listen, exactly, because look, respectfully, I haven't got time to wait for an under-9 player to develop through to our first team. He'll be given that opportunity. But in the meantime, we will look to bring players into the 14s, the 16s, the 18s, the 23s that we may acquire from other football clubs to fast track. And we've actually done a little bit of that in the last couple of years. And with the likes of Kieran as your first team manager, if he believes they're right, he'll put them in. He believes in the academy. He has an academy background. And I think the academy is just such an important part of our club. We talk about the foundation being the heart and soul of the club. The academy is very much aligned to that. Look, every player that comes through is not going to play in our first team, but I think one or two coming through, being close to it, getting game time, then getting into the team, fans love nothing more than seeing one of their own.
Of course, we're mainly talking about the bigger picture here, the long-term projects and goals of the club, but we should highlight how good the under-21s in particular have been this season. What a start to life in Premier League 2.
They've had an incredible start, some incredible results. And I think, again, you've seen a mentality shift. They haven't gone into games simply aiming to, again, facilitate fixtures and just to turn up. They've gone in with, actually, we don't care if it's Liverpool or Manchester United or Chelsea. We're going to try and win the game. We're going to win it our way. And again, I think the coaches have done a great job. And that gives you real hope for some quick wins in the future with the academy.
Is it hard to find that balance between the sort of, the style of football and what you're trying to coach into players, but also actually wanting to win specific matches?
Listen, it is. You have to get the balance right, and that's why the people have to be right. Winning games of football, particularly in the Championship, is tough. You look at the results this season. There's nothing between many of the teams, and at times, it's personality that can win games. It's that grit and determination. We've seen that when we got out the Championship last time. We needed that when we got out of League One. And when you're buying players into the football club, you don't always know whether they've got that. You try and do your research. If you're bringing an academy player through and who's been with you for 7 years, you know exactly what they've got. So I think that's an easier fit. And I just think it's such a big pillar upon which the club's got to move forward. We've got to continue to invest. We've got to continue to work hard. And we've got to get passionately behind our own academy now.
We've arrived at the Dome. That will squeeze through the door and you can go in, Mark. And then an area, at the training ground, this has been here for, I don't even know how long this has been here, 20 years maybe?
Listen, in fairness to previous ownerships, this will have been one of the very original domes.
Yeah.
And it will have been, I would imagine, part of the criteria required when the club was historically Cat 1 many, many years ago. And it stood the test of time. It's been resurfaced, it's been reskinned. And again, I think it's an example of, again, when we arrived here at the club, I remember coming in here and it was dirty, it was tatty, there was litter, it was unpainted, there was no love and care. You walk in here now, it's pristine.
Yeah.
And if you come in here, for example, on a Friday evening, and at times you've got our academy under-10s playing our foundation under-10s in here with all the parents in, it's a great atmosphere and it's something to be really proud of.
Do you like as well that, yes, the pillars that we've spoken about are going to have their kind of vastly improved facilities, but you could come in here on a Friday night and, as you say, have an under-10s game, and then a Monday morning you've got Kieran and the fitness coaches in here.
No, exactly. It's again, it's part of the heartbeat of what we do. It's a multi-purpose facility. I think Kieran will use it in the week. The academy will use it most evenings and weekends. We've got the 4G pitch, which again is just used 24/7. This training ground, if you ever walk in, spend a day here, if you're in the canteen, for example, from like 7 a.m. in the morning till 9 p.m. at night, it is rammed. Academy different age group, women different age group, first team, coaches, staff, Portman Road staff. The work and food they churn out on a daily basis is quite incredible. Hence, we need bigger and more facilities.
Yeah, a significant investment in here as well. That screen behind you, that's utilised by the analysis team, the coaches, and the first team players.
Yeah, again, a part of how Kieran works. We have the screens on the buggies on the pitch.
Yeah.
We have the drones up all of the time. And then when he's in here doing his technical and tactical work, what he wants to get across to the players, he has on the screen. I'm glad nobody's hit it with a ball yet and broken it. But no, again, these things don't come cheap. But we're trying to move from good to great. We're trying to do things properly. As we look around the new building at the moment and the size that's going to be, I think it'll be something special. And I go back to what I said earlier. I genuinely believe this will deliver generational change and generational success for Ipswich, the football club, the town and the county.
Yeah. Let's go around and look at the, it's all going to be state of the art, but this building that we're going to approach, is this effectively the hub for the training grounds? Yeah,
this will be the centrepiece. Again, tens of millions of pounds worth of investment into the first team, elite home, if you like, from changing rooms to offices to gymnasium to medical centre to swimming pool, cold pools, plunge pools, hydrotherapy, cryotherapy, you name it, it's in here. And we've spent a lot of time doing a lot of research on clubs around the world to make sure that we haven't missed anything. And look, I've said to you before, I'm really fortunate to be in a position where I lead this organisation on a daily basis and I can deliver these plans. These plans can't be delivered without our shareholders and our investors and our board. And it's been great because I've got the likes of Sam Simon and Peter Simon who've built training facilities at the Mooseheads for their ice hockey team. And I've got the same in Travis Viola, who's done the same at back-to-back title winners, the Panthers.
Yeah.
So they've built these type of facilities. So it's been great to tap into them. And they've stood behind the funding plan for it. And if I said these things were expensive, that's probably an understatement. What I thought we would spend on this when I joined and what we've actually spent on it is probably double.
Yeah.
By the time we've done all the work and got everything in that we needed. And the one thing that the board have been really encouraging on is, Mark, don't cut corners.
Yeah.
Do it well, do it once and do it right. And I think you'll see that's what we've done.
And we're almost making our way round to what is going to be the new central point. But again, the emphasis is on the longer term project, sustainable success. But this season, what have been the challenges of returning to the Championship?
I think it's a good question. Listen, I won't hide away from the fact I think the Premier League leaves scars. I think the fact that we've talked about this before, 20 plus years away from top flight football, no real investment in infrastructure, no real investment in so many areas of the football club that when you get there, you're fundamentally not ready and you're chasing time always. I feel like that from day one when we've joined the football club. And I think it's taken us time to settle. We've moved a lot of players in, a lot of players out. We recruited some really good talent who I think over recent weeks you've now started to see form into a real team.
Yeah.
And that just takes a little bit of time. Listen, no one works harder than Kieran. He's fully on it. We talk about this all the time. And success is built, not bought, and it takes time. Doesn't matter what team you are, at what level, it takes time. And the Championship is tough. And if you look at the results across the board, at the start of game day on a Saturday, you try and pick the results. You couldn't pick the results in the Championship. It's wild at times. And there's only a goal in it and a goal there. But I think for me, if you look at the underlying data in our team, our performances have been good. We've all been frustrated with a few of the results earlier in the season, but I think you're seeing the team start to come together as a team, and you're certainly seeing what I see again now is a very clear identity of a Kieran McKenna team on a pitch.
Dean Sharp has arranged for us to pop in here briefly. And again, we don't actually want to pause work for too long because it has a knock-on effect, doesn't it? There are deadlines to this.
No, there is. And, you know, we're fortunate to get in. It's not very often they'll allow me to go in because they're at a critical stage. A lot of the steels are now in place. And, you know, like, wow, as we open, I haven't seen it for a week or so.
Yeah.
And my God, it's changed again. It's developing at an incredible site.
If we're going to pan round to this now then, what actually is this building going to hold, Mark? What's this going to look like? And actually, when we get round the other side, it's going to look special in the future when it looks over those pitches, isn't it?
Yeah, so again, look, it's an elite performance centre for the first team and first team only. The corner that you look at here will be main reception. The far side of the building will actually overlook all of the pitches. So Kieran's 3 new pitches, 3 Deso pitches, 3 stitch pitches that we put in place, the training ground will overlook. The far right hand side, there'll be a huge gymnasium again that overlooks the pitches with a huge swimming pool that sits behind it with all the wet rehabilitation facilities. Office, administration, canteen that overlooks the pitches on the first floor. And again, on the bottom floor, you've got more you've got first team changing rooms, you've got wide-ranging medical facilities, performance facilities, analysis facilities, recruitment facilities, but all in one place. Our challenge is going to be, when we were in the old building, which was small and tight, culture was tight, and culture is tight because our people are together. We're now going to be slightly spread across the site, so we've got to make sure we work extra hard on our people, our communication and how we work as a team, because fundamentally if we don't do that, we don't have anything.
And how do we do that?
It's effective communication. And the reality is, I say this all the time, you're judged a lot of the time not on what you do, but how you communicate. And we've got to take care of our people, and we've got to work with our people to make sure they stay tight and as a team. And I think we've been quite good at that since we arrived at the club, but we're going to have to work even harder now that people are slightly spread out around the site.
And where we're heading round to now is Kieran and the coaches, as you've just suggested there, they're out here a lot and the level of training session really has stepped up during their time here, Mark, hasn't it?
It's really strange. I was just having some breakfast earlier this morning with I won't say who, but one of the players who joined us from another championship club, a top championship club, probably about a year ago now. And he was asking how the site development was going on, and we're talking through it. And one of the things he said was he'd been at another championship club all his life through the academy, and found it tough when he came here. And I was saying, well, what do you mean tough? And he said, just the levels.
Yeah.
The levels of training, the intensity, the expectations from the club, the expectations from Kieran, the professionalism, the challenges that will be set daily by the likes of Andy Rolls and Matt Allen and people like this. He says it's a completely different ball game. And that's really good for us to hear, because sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you focus sometimes on what you haven't got and what you're not doing rather than what you are doing well.
Yeah.
So to hear that was actually quite nice. And again, he just said, look, the facilities, the investment that's going into the facilities, there really are not many clubs in the country outside those right at the top of the game that are putting this kind of investment into training facilities.
How much are the players actually looking forward to seeing this when it's done?
I think they're looking forward to holding me to task, because having been the one who's sat at the front of most of the contract negotiations for all of our current players, part of my pitch to them to join this football club has been the development of the training facilities.
Yeah.
And what you don't want to do is tell them a good story but not deliver. So the fact that they can actually see work going on, you can see the building now emerging from behind the hoardings, and the pitches they train on every day brings it to reality. But I think those who've seen behind it, Kieran included, have all been shocked by the size. It's going to be very, very impressive. And again, a generational change I think it will deliver.
Similar to the show pitch for the academy, you're starting to see this building take shape. How good is this going to look when it overlooks all of these pitches when it's done?
Listen, hugely impressive. And from a recruitment tool, that's important because, you know, if we're trying to persuade young players to join us from Premier League clubs who've been at the likes of Manchester City or United or Tottenham in world-class facilities, you've got to impress them. You've got to give them a reason to come here because, you know, they're only at the stadium 20 plus days a year. They're here 360. Christmas Day, they're here, they're in. They're here all the time. And it's so important. I remember not long after we'd been promoted to the Premier League, standing about 20 yards from here, with a young player who went on to score a number of goals, stayed with us for a season, and you can probably work out who he is. And there were several clubs vying for his signature. And I'm thinking, I need a hook. I need to find something to get this across the line. So I remember standing there about 20 yards on, phoning Ed Sheeran and saying, Ed, do me a favour, can you speak to this young man for me? So we worked as a team. The training ground's a key part of that recruitment tool. And this, I'm excited to see it, but I'm excited for the fans, the stakeholders, the community to see it because I think, well, I know there will be nothing like this in Suffolk.
Mark, we've popped over to Bent Lane as well, effectively an extension of the training ground, and again, it's received serious investment and the pitches look incredible, don't they?
Again, multi-millions pounds worth of investment on Bent Lane. Incredible that when we joined the club, this was the first team training facilities. Where Kieran is now was a field and you literally couldn't train on it. This was just about trainable and it was awful. It was no investment, uneven, mud bath. It was ridiculous. So one of the first things Kieran requested when he came in, he was, please give me some pitches to train on. So we did the pitches quickly over the other side. So what we've then done is taken here and we've got 3 new stitch pitches, which are literally being completed now. As you can see, one is operational, has been probably just for a couple of weeks. The pitch we're on now is operational now, and the far pitch will be in the next couple of days, couple of weeks. But again, all of this is for the games programme, for the coaching programme, for the Cat 1 status, for the academy. I mean, if you just take a look as well at the car parking, how many cars we have on site here.
Yeah.
It's a big staff now. It's a big staff to run the first team. It's a big staff to run the women's team, and an even bigger staff almost to run a Cat 1 academy. Because part of your licence is you have a lot of boxes to fill with regards to regulations and roles and profiles. That's the world that we live in. So it's a big staff. But most importantly, we've got to have the grass. If we're going to develop the players and the coaches are going to work, their place of work has got to be first class. And I think now, again, with the investment we've made, these pitches are ready to go.
And with how good this is looking, do you like the fact that, yes, it's a private facility for the football club, of course it's open to supporters for academy matches occasionally and things like that, but you've spoken before about the town, the county, the area as a whole, and you might drive past here, walk your dog past, whatever it is, and it's going to look really good. It's an upgrade for the area, isn't it?
No, look, I think you know me well enough. I care passionately about the club.
Yeah.
I care passionately about the town and the county, and we need more things in this town that we are proud of, more things in this county that we are proud of. And I think thus far, since we've joined, we've done what we said we were going to do. I think with the training ground facilities here now coming to a completion in the next 6 to 7 months, we then move our focus to Portman Road. It'd be nice to take you around Portman Road, show you some of the developments that we've got on there that have been ongoing in the last 6, 7 months. But ultimately then, it's the wider developments at Portman Road. It is the cobbled stand, it is the training pitch, it is the car parking. It is the potential for other developments behind that cobbled stand and the land behind there. We need to move forward, but as I say to the key stakeholders, whether that's the elected members, whether that's the local council, whether that's the commercial partners, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this at pace.
Yeah.
I'm not here to mess around, I'm not here to wait. We're here to move forward, we're here to move this club forward quickly. Ultimately, everything's about winning, I get that, but there's much more behind the scenes going on here than just the games at the moment. We're building a club that will, I think, have a very, very successful long-term future.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for your time on
Pleasure.
TownTV. As you've mentioned, we'll return basically for a part 2 at Portman Road.